Thank you, Massimo. Buongiorno, iuha, kola iuha, ichichab. I greet every single one of you as my friend, and it's my honor and privilege to be here with you today as we engage our energy, our participation in COP26. Thank you for the gentleman that was speaking right before me. And thank you, Eduardo, for reminding me 20 times when I am on, because we got the time wrong one time, and I'm very happy to actually make it. As you know, I for the Lakota people, the Lakota Nation, and I have a couple of experience in Italia. I was there for the Yam Festival, this yoga festival, headquartered in Bologna, but the festivities were in Cervia, in a on the beach and in a park, a very natural Parque de Naturale, however you say that. It's very good time, and as indigenous peoples, we have a cosmology, we have a knowledge system that has been ignored, has been devalued by the systems of Western civilization. And now, because of the human species recognizing that what we were told was civilization, and the cultural mythology that comes along with the Enlightenment and with technological supremacy, the mythology, the stories that human beings tell themselves, that we are the apex of 5 billion years of evolution, that the other species, which in indigenous worldview are much older than the two-legged of the species. But in the Western world, we tell ourselves that we have the right, the inherent right to assert dominion. This is what our religious tradition and our religious mythology tells us, that we have the right to assert dominion over the beasts of the earth, over the beasts of the sea, and that the non-Christian world is, which I was born into, is Saracen, it is pagan, it is barbaric, it is heathen, it is savage, it is uncivilized. This is the identity that is built up in the Western imagination, in the Western mind, because all people want to feel good about who they are or what they are. But we have been led off balance, and indigenous nations are still very much responsible to the rest of creation, so that we must conduct certain ceremonies during certain seasons, certain times of those seasons, during certain celestial constellations, and when the animals are doing certain things, they tell us, the youngest of creation, that to pay attention, and that we have to conduct certain ceremonies, we have to protect their land, their waters, their sacred sites. And so you see this with indigenous nations maybe asserting jurisdiction, or at least their presence under Western jurisprudence, Western systems of law. We're not given the same sort of rights that nation states are given. Indigenous peoples are kind of lumped into some less than significant, some subhuman grouping, according to those traditions, to the legal traditions and the religious traditions. And so when, for instance, these multinational corporations come into our territory and tell us and threaten us and tell our children that we don't care what you think, we are going to build this 500 million barrel per day capacity oil pipeline that is going to be cancerous to your water. We're going to build it right where you live, right where your children live. And so, just like any family man or any person that would defend what is sacred to them, we were backed into a corner. And so our entire nation stood up against all odds, against the multinational conglomerates, the representation of how corporate personhood has just taken way off into somewhere that I don't even think people in the 1800s could have envisioned the protection and the personhood that corporations would receive, and not Mother Earth, not the sacred waters, the very thing that we all depend on physiologically for our daily subsistence. We have not protected our environment like we have a duty to. But because indigenous nations are willing to stand up, and because there are people in the world who want to awaken themselves, who want to seek a path to spiritual liberation, and sometimes you have to walk through the flames of Western dogma, of Western philosophy, of Western academia. But by the graces of creation, I think that we are all arriving according to our own experience, according to our own logic and deductive reasoning. I speak about the Western academia having gone through it, having survived it, and having followed the principle of one of our great leaders named Sitting Bull. And he has also been to Firenze. He's been all over Italia. And 120 years ago, Sitting Bull visited your lands. And I apologize if there's people that are not from Italia that are on the Zoom. But I love Italia. Me and my wife have gone there. Me and my son have gone there. And I plan to return. I plan to come back because I feel that there is a cosmic awakening that is happening. That's it didn't start at Standing Rock, but it got a huge boost. The fire was rekindled. This fire that our souls, our spirits are grieving for, this connection to ceremony, for this connection to be able to create a unitive experience with what we understand to be the metaphysical reality. I feel that we are all inclined to that mission. And so when we see other human beings standing up against all odds and saying to those colonial forces, no more. This water is needed by our children. This water is needed by the animals of the forest, by the animals of the sky, of every conceivable species origin. We must defend their lands. And one of our other great leaders expressed this sentiment. His name is Red Cloud. This is where I live now, on the Pine Ridge Reservation. He said, the buffalo must have their country and the Lakota must have the buffalo. So this is the way that I have to glean the benefits of the lifelong deliberations of indigenous scholars, indigenous philosophers, indigenous prophets, and the same colonial experience that the indigenous peoples have gone through and are still going through happened in Europe 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. In Italia, I know about the Etruscans, a people called the Etruscans. Well, I'll end here and say that every human being within us have the capacity to return to a sacred, metaphysical walk, a way of living in the universe that recognizes that we are in very much dire need of a spiritual economy. When we talk about COP26, what will people speak about? What will nations commit to? Those changes start right here and here inside each and every one of us. Every single day we have this potential to recognize our connection to the sacred universe and to pursue that connection. This is the way that indigenous peoples have navigated, have survived, have adapted and evolved now, where we are able to incorporate those technologies. And I don't want to talk about language as a technology or as a software, but we have incorporated those ways of being in the world. And just like Sitting Bull said, whatever you find in this foreign world, whatever you find in that world that is good, you can pick that up. Whatever you find that is bad, you can leave that to the side. And indigenous nations are still doing this to this day, and we're still reaching with our hand out to our friends around the world and saying, we need to listen to indigenous nations. We need to listen to indigenous peoples because of the ceremonial responsibilities that we are upholding on behalf of all humanity. We are going to be able to give spiritual guidance. Woanglake is what we call it. We are going to be able to give that, and we want to share it. We want to use the gifts that we have been given, including technology, including deductive logic, including science, including the whole of it, to create a more balanced way of being in the world. So I just want to thank you for inviting me. I look forward to maybe meeting some of you in person when I return to Italia. I want to send a message of encouragement to everybody who's at COP26. And I want to tell you, Blihichiapo, take courage, my relatives. Thank you very, very much.